once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
That's Larry Ellison, one of the richest men in the world, in the Oval Office just the other day. Gosh, it'd be so amazing to sit down 100 people and they can't see other people. I don't want to be influenced by anyone. Play that clip and get their initial first knee-jerk, like emotional gut response to that. Does that sound like an amazing medical breakthrough that's incredible, or is that terrifying? Joe Allen is here. Dark Aeon is the name of the book. Transhumanism and the War Against Humanity. Joe, good to talk to you again, brother. What's your first take on just that use of artificial intelligence?
Well, that's one heck of an advertisement, isn't it? We will cure cancer. We will create God. We will subdue and replace you. We may destroy your entire human race. That's one of the strangest advertisements that any company has ever put forward, but that's what these AI companies and people like Larry Ellison, the whole constellation, that's what they're talking about.
Why the destruction of the human race? He's talking about solving cancer, not killing people.
He is. So let's start with that one. First off, I think there's every reason to be very skeptical of such a claim. If there's one thing Larry Ellison has learned over the years, surely it is how to sell people on a product. Curing cancer is as old an ambition as any, solving world hunger or any other sort of primal desire. I wouldn't look forward to artificial intelligence miraculously curing it, but what I would say is very likely, given the trajectory of the big pharma companies like Pfizer, especially Moderna, and others that are working in this space, since the mRNA vaccines, there has been use of artificial intelligence to accelerate the process of both drug discovery and also identifying useful mRNA sequences and rolling them out. Moderna really spearheaded this. Pfizer jumped on seeing the competition. All this comes out of DARPA with a lot of funding from Bill Gates. But what Larry Ellison's talking about just kind of clicks it up a notch. Instead of curing COVID, which without getting you banned from YouTube, let's just say that the results on that project were mixed. Now it's curing cancer. This is going to keep coming in these sorts of uses of AI, and especially the projected uses of AI to solve all of your health problems, to make doctors into super doctors, soldiers into super soldiers, teachers into super teachers. All of this is going to come full blast.
Okay. Why is it fundamentally different than any other technological advancement? Artificial intelligence, right? So you talked about going from human to superhuman. Well, for a while we could only walk with our feet, and then we invented trains and then cars and now airplanes, and now Elon wants to shoot people on rockets around the world to land on different, airstrips, like rocket strips, whatever. So we're moving faster. Why can't we think faster, think smarter, be better? Why can't artificial intelligence be like any other technological jump?
It is part of a continuum. So everything from the printed text to telecommunications via first wires, then satellites, television, on and on and on. And of course, the personal computer, the internet, smartphones, social media, all of these form a continuum. Artificial intelligence is now at the apex of that continuum. In fact, builds on a lot of those because it's hoovering up the data provided by the internet and digitized texts, and also personal communications. So I think that it is different in a number of ways. The first way that artificial intelligence is different from previous modes of software is that instead of it being just purely rules-based, there's a huge degree of uncertainty, of non-deterministic programming involved. meaning that AIs aren't bound by the same sorts of rules as your Excel spreadsheet. You can ask an AI the same question multiple times, and it will come back with different answers. This is because it's built to arrive at its own conclusions within certain parameters, right? Within certain degrees of control, biases, and all of that. Another part of it, it's oftentimes said that AIs aren't programmed so much as grown, right? They grow like a plant. Machine learning means that instead of just simply having a rules-based program to go over your data set and spit out reliable or predictable answers at the other end, machine learning kind of grows in its own directions, in the way that the data, the patterns it finds in the data. That may seem strange and abstract, but the real point is that artificial intelligence has degrees of freedom. And it also arrives at certain patterns that humans wouldn't be able to see otherwise. A classic example is AlphaGo, and followed up by AlphaZero, the Google AI that was able to dominate at the Chinese board game Go. People forever said you would never have an AI that could do it at all. Now AI is a yet another kind of stone wall against which humans can beat their skills against, but will never overcome. And it wasn't that they just programmed it to play Go well. With AlphaZero, it taught itself how to play Go and still dominates human beings. Kind of extrapolate that out to other areas. What you're talking about is a technology that, if you are to believe Elon Musk, and I don't believe anything that comes out of these guys' mouths at face value, but if you are to believe Elon Musk or Sam Altman or Masayoshi Son, who spoke there alongside Sam Altman and Larry Ellison on the second day of Trump's term in office, then we're going to have artificial general intelligence by 2030, meaning that you would then have a superhuman machine that could think, that could do any cognitive task you could do, but better. In fact, do any cognitive task any human being could do, but better. That is, I would say, light years beyond the internet in ambition. And if anything, even approximating that were to come into being, it would rapidly replace all white-collar jobs, or most white-collar jobs, rendering people to be, at best, babysitters for the AI that their company has given them.
Yes. Okay. What would your advice be to Donald Trump? You bumped into him in the hallway. Oh, Mr. President. What would your advice be to be in this realm, particularly knowing the people that he has surrounded himself with, right? He likes that Japanese guy that you mentioned, the Sam Altmans, Elon, of course. So you have these big AI guys who are definitely in his ear, and he wants to win. He wants that technological supremacy. That's his mindset. What's your advice to him?
Maybe the most critical aspect, I just got to preface this, maybe the most critical sphere, domain that artificial intelligence is going to be needed in is in national security. To the extent that it's effective, you're going to want your nation's AI to be better at raking over surveillance data and operating weapon systems and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Trump, please utilize these technologies as they're necessary to protect America, to ensure that our interests are served and that our economy flourishes, but do not allow corporations or government agencies to turn these inward, as they have been done for decades, on the population. It is not necessary to turn us into cyborgs in order to win in the geopolitical game.
Interesting. Okay, we got about a minute. What do you think of DeepSeek and China's version of this? My opening argument was, if I could have my druthers, I'd say no AI. But the question is, if you can't stop it, wouldn't it be better for us to maintain supremacy over China maintaining supremacy? So that's the question. It's not either or, it's which.
Well, in the race to the top, it seems that we're going to pop out the other end on the bottom, at least on a moral level. But that being said, three areas you want to think about. Big tech, that being Google, OpenAI, so on and so forth. Little tech, those startups that Mark Andreessen is always talking about. And you could say that Elon Musk, in a sense, is part of that too, because he's so adversarial with big tech. And then you have China. These three competing spheres are what we're looking at. And so DeepSeek undermined big tech. That showed that China is at least competitive in the AI realm, no matter how derivative DeepSeek's R1 is, and no matter how dishonest they may be about the numbers, how expensive it was, the infrastructure used to train it. But it served two purposes. One, it undermined big tech and showed that China is competitive, but also by undermining big tech, and especially by dropping the NVIDIA value so much, it may open up a lot of space for little tech, for startups to get a foothold. This is why Mark Andreessen is so excited about DeepSeek. At least I believe that's his reasoning. And so you have to think of it in those spheres. The way to think about AI is not as one big new world order, certainly not yet. The way to think about AI is a cacophony of cooperation, yes, but largely competition. They are clawing over each other's backs for the so-called ring of power.
Yes, Dark Aeon is the book. Transhumanism and the War Against Humanity. Read this, get a better understanding than almost anyone on this. Joe Allen, good to talk to you, brother.
Thank you very much.